Doing good. How are you?
Good evening. Let's stand for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Good evening. I'm glad to have you all here this evening. I'm Teresa Locke. I'm the president of the Ozark City Board of Education. I'm joined on stage tonight with our other board members, Mr. Larry Hicks, Herman Jackson, Nicholas Bull, two-time board member, Leslie Reeder. And we have our distinguished candidate number 3, Mr. Randy Thomley, who's from Winfield, Alabama, and we'll be hearing more from him later. Our moderator for the evening is Amy Pierce. Amy is from our central office. She will direct questions to Mr. Thomley. Mr. Thomley received these questions in advance. They were developed, questions developed by the school board and sanctioned by our attorney, Mr. Henry Stegall. There will be no questions from the audience. Okay, Ms. Pierce.
At this time, we would like to ask everyone to please silence your phones. Welcome, Mr. Thomas.
First of all, I'd like to say thanks for the tours, for the meals, for the room, for the hospitality and grace that the board and all of the teachers, administrators, and everyone shown to me today. My name is Randy Thomley. I serve as Assistant Superintendent for Winfield City Schools. I'm a lifelong educator. I've been a teacher, coach, assistant principal, assistant superintendent with several central office responsibilities. Leadership style, I've been asked what type of leader am I. I'm a servant leader. I'm a person that's very visionary. I will not be at the central office very much. I like being in the schools, but not as a micromanager, but simply as an extra set of eyes and arms, because that's what the action is. You will hear data, data, data throughout my presentation, because I believe that data drives instruction strong, important to me. I consider myself visionary, looking out to the future, and I have had 23 years of administrative experience. This has been my most favorite year because I have 3 first-year principals and 1 second-year principal in our entire school district. I feel like I've been more of a teacher this year than anything else. My pivotal belief in education is, as I said earlier, data drives instruction, and I believe in student-centered philosophy of education. When I was in school, it was teacher-centered, and when I taught, it was somewhat teacher-centered. Impart facts, memorize them, give them back, and you learn. 21st century children don't learn that way. They're curious, they need to be engaged, their instruction needs to be differentiated, and by being student-centered, when you walk in the classroom, the focus is not on the teacher, but on the children and the engagement. I saw a lot of great things that lends itself to that today. I saw some very dynamic teachers in the buildings today. As far as my qualifications, I have a BS, MAT, EDS in Educational Leadership. I'm a graduate of the University of Alabama Superintendent's Academy, and I could tell you some accolades and awards, but that's not who I am. They know what they are. But anything that I am standing before you is because I've been in the presence of great leaders who mentored me. I serve as a deacon in my church. I'm a Gideon. My faith is very important to me. And I'm going through this because this is supposed to be a thumbnail speech, but I told them this next part, it asked me, why are you interested in being our next superintendent? That's something I need to answer with apropos because I think it's very important. Mission statement says that it's to grow and develop productive citizens for college, work, and adulthood. I think that's simple, to the point, and that's what we do in education, the very thing that we do. And the core beliefs say we believe in creating a powerful, diverse relationship through rigorous, relevant, and engaging instruction. That echoes the sentiment of the mission statement we have here at Ozone. And why do I want to be superintendent? I shared with them this morning. I've been married going on almost 37 years, and so I had a sincere talk with my wife about this. And I said, we go down there and everything goes well. They may ask me to be their superintendent. Are you willing to make that commitment? And she got ready to answer, not yet. And they tell you something. we go down there, we want to join the church for about 6 months. These are the conditions. First few weeks of living in Ozark, I'll be attending Miss Locke's church. Next time, we may be attending Mr. Bull's church for a few weeks, and it might be Mr. Jackson. I think you can see where I'm going with that simply by saying this. When I was a teacher, a coach, and an administrator, it was very easy to build relationships with students, with teachers, with parents, because I was in there, I was engaged with them. You don't know me. I've got to earn your trust and your respect. That's going to be the first step in doing that, in my opinion. As an administrator, I love my cheerleaders, I love my A+ college AP kids, I love my football players, but there's those kids that the teachers just couldn't teach, and they had to come to the office. They didn't have time with 28 other kids to invest in them like I did. And a lot of times as an administrator, you're kind of like Jesus, the lepers and the tax collectors, if you will. Those are my children. You invest in those, you love them all, and you know that each one has a purpose and an ability to succeed. And so I see an opportunity to be involved in the community, build relationships and trust. My wife and I are kind of unique. We're runners. We're trying to run in all 50 states in the United States. We are doing 47 marathons or half marathons. We got 3 to go. So you'll see me running out around the street, riding bicycles. Also, when I was coming here last night, I saw some kids playing basketball. I might be out there, but you build relationships that way and you get to know people and earn trust. This is real important to me if I'm the one chosen, because of the recording. And I need to be able to vet myself and see what I told you I was going to do. I need to check those boxes and make sure what I said I was going to do is the truth. Those are my words. That's what I believe. And I believe it will be an honor and a move for me and my family that will be rewarding to our family. And hopefully, I think it will be rewarding to the OCS Schools family as well.
Thank you, Mr. Thomley. At this time, we will begin the board-prepared questions for the candidate. The superintendent has to make multiple decisions in a variety of areas every day. Please describe your management decision-making style and give a few examples of strategies you have found most effective.
As far as management and decision-making, number one, the most important job I've ever had in leadership is to be fair and consistent. And I can promise you that is the hardest job. Second, I would say that the popular answer and the right answer generally are not the same thing. A lot of times they're not. But I will not be one that will be worried about the popular answer, but the right answer and what's best for boys and girls. Third, when you compromise your integrity, you compromise your ability to make decisions, and I will not do that either. I'd like to give 5 examples of strategies that I found effective. I'll start with first one, real simple. In Winfield, where I'm at, as transportation supervisor, we don't have our own fueling station. You might have heard that the pipeline was compromised. We heard it on Monday, and this one was visionary. I called every bus driver and said, I better fuel up tonight, because we may not be able to get gas, and I don't have to not be able to take our children to school. So we planned in advance. Second example of that would be trust in a relationship. It's ironic, Ms. Pierce called me last Friday and was confirming this interview. And when she did, I told her, well, I'm actually on my way. I've got a child that went missing off the bus. They called the police and parents upset. This is going to take a minute to tell this, but so our elementary school guidance counselor called and she almost told me, oh, this is the worst family for this to happen. They've had 2 very, very bad experiences with superintendent. Horrible. I just told her something, she just gave me the parent's name, the child's name, and the 911 address. So I drove to her house. And when we went there, of course, she wasn't there. So I said, Ken's, give me the phone number and call. I said, ma'am, I'm Randy Thomley, Assistant Superintendent of Winfield City Schools. You had a problem today, and I don't think it's appropriate to discuss it on the phone. I want to see you face to face and talk about it. Can you tell me where you're at? So I went to her house. And when I got out of my truck, I said, hi, I'm Randy Thomley. Grandma comes off, oh, hey, that's Mr. Thomley. Hey, he used to be so-and-so, he's this and he's this. I had built a relationship I didn't know that I had with the grandmother and the mother. And, hey, come on in the house. Now I want you to listen to this next statement because this is unique. We have a thing called Thrill Share. I don't know if y'all have that, where we send calls out, text messages, tell parents about the weather, school closing, and things like that. Well, we had sent this message. The Winfield City Schools baseball team will be playing in the third round of the state playoffs against Piedmont in an effort to allow faculty, staff, and students to go to the ball game. We will dismiss school Friday at 12 o'clock. Now, remember how that was worded. So we go in and start talking to her, and she said, I don't understand, the bus driver's so good, we love her, she's always good. We didn't know anything. Wednesday, we got the message about the weather. Nobody told us anything about this school Friday. I said, yes, ma'am. Do you have Thrill Share? Oh, yeah, I have. Can you read this message? So she started reading. School will close at 12. Mr. Thomley, I'm an elementary parent. I saw baseball and I stopped reading right then. There was about 6 or 7 of us. And I said, yes, ma'am, you're right. This is our fault. We need to do a better job. Next time, we're going to say, school will get out Friday at 12 o'clock because, blah, 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 blah. Immediately, trust was established. The parent had a bad experience and bad relationships and some were built, and that was a good experience. And I know you got better experience. From a financial standpoint, talking about being effective in decision making, we built a $2.5 million multi-purpose facility. You notice I said multi-purpose facility, not field house. To get everyone on board for investing in that, we got all our board members' hard hats and shovels and made the right picture of the groundbreaking. But we put kids in basketball, football, baseball, softball, cheerleader, band, cross-country uniforms, and they were all in the picture for complete lining for the multi-purpose facility. We couldn't put it in the paper, but on special education families, we told them that your children will get to go in on the AstroTurf on a period of play. All of that's been true. We built that building, and one day to build it with bond monies, another thing that the recurring cost was going to be, we got to heat and cool that building. I told our maintenance supervisor, I need to know a cost analysis of what you think that would be over 1 year's time. He told me $25,000, and we ran that cost analysis for 3 years. It was 24. He was spot on. Another example of being effective with management would be data. School district, I got a little fuzzy. School district, when I'm at, in my first year there as a school principal, superintendent sat me down. We were back then doing ART Plus, now we do ACAT for our accountability. Test scores came back, we all sat in there as administration. Me and Adam, he said, Mr. Thomley, third grade reading, 97%. Third grade math, 98%. Started to sit up a little bit, and he said, fourth grade reading, 96%. Fourth grade math, 98%. He looked at me square in the eye and said, those scores are good, but we can do better. I immediately understood where we stood and what the vision of our school district was. We need that same vision here, there's no reason we can't have that. Finally, the fifth is with personnel. Sometimes as administrators, and I know there's several of them in here, we have to make some hard decisions. We have to determine if a probationary teacher needs to be renewed and tendered because they're going to impact lives for 10 or 20 years. And along the way, sometimes we have disagreements about things. Every district that I've ever gone into, the first thing I do, I'm an AEA member, is I call the UNISERV director and I build a relationship. And I said, I know you're going to represent the teachers. I'm an AEA member too. I'm the principal. I'm going to build a relationship. Got a teacher that keeps getting late to school. I talk to her. I leave a paper trail of written notes, I send emails. Eventually, we got to the point of no return. I say, I'm going to write a formal letter of complaint against you not being in school. I recommend the teacher, explain what rebuttal is to the teacher. And these aren't easy because you love these people. I'm not trying to get her, I want her to do right. At first, she sees it with grace. A little bit later, she gets mad. She gets on the phone with the youth service director, and she says, yes, ma'am, Mr. Thomley has already given me the folder, and this is what happened. Now, we sit down and we talk about the problem, and we understand that it's nothing personal. Get school on time. Those are some examples.
Thank you. What do you see as the role of the superintendent as it relates to employee groups, students, the community, and the school board?
Develop trust. Again, these are just words coming out of my mouth now. You don't know that. I bet I heard that. I think that's very paramount with teachers, support personnel, administration, students, community members, everyone in the community of Ozark. Also, develop leadership. As I mentioned this year, 3 first-year teachers, 1 administrators, 1 second-year administrator. Mentoring. I do not have to be the smartest man in the room when we make decisions. If somebody else has a better idea, my ego can be put to the side because what we do is about children, not about me economy. And grow leaders that way by empowering them, give them the ability to be tasked with decision making. I like to eat with C&P once a month. Eat with my bus drivers. This is again how you build relationships. I know we have at least one board member that's interested in theater and involved in that in our community. Do some things like that. Immerse yourself in the community, attend church, go to city council meeting, develop a relationship with the mayor, be a visible presence. I mentioned to y'all about running. My wife and I do that a lot. Also, as a school board, I want to communicate with you. It used to be called sunshine law. I think it's called open meetings law now, so I can't get all over and talk to you like I am now. But I can send you an email, I can send you a text message, hey, this is what's going on with the schools, just want to let you know about something. If something comes up that's important, that might be uncomfortable, I might not say names, and protect FERPA, but I can let you know what's going on this way. And that needs to be two-way street.
Thank you. Based on your knowledge of our system, what do you believe should be the 2 top priorities for our schools and community?
That's an ambiguous question. And it's not fair for me to answer that question because for me to come in and tell you what's wrong might be the opposite. I'm not. But are there things that we can improve on? That can be true anywhere. Just like the superintendent told me, 98% is good, but we can do better. So I would say, even though that is ambiguous, especially after getting to go around to the schools today and see everybody, visit with everybody, that will not change for me. I'll be very intentional about that. About your initial benchmark test at the primary and elementary schools, seeing how much growth you have from that initial to that second benchmark around Christmas. We do 3. Another in February, we do the ACAP assessment at the end. Those scores are embargoed for a little bit, and then we sit down and we say, are we growing? Are we moving students? What can we do to improve? At the high school level, I spoke with high school principal, ACT test scores, career tech pathways, are we credentialing? Are we having students involved in the military? Are work key scores up where kids can be college and career ready? How's our AP classes doing? So there's a number of ways to study that data. Children are business, and everyone needs to be plugged into something that makes them feel that they have value and they're important. So that would be the first thing. And the second thing, not to be a dead horse, but is to build relationships. to build trust, and to get to know people within the school district. That would be my top two priorities.
In your role as superintendent, how would you work to promote engagement of all students, parents, and community in our system?
I did as much as I could, try to learn about Ozark when I was told I would be a finalist. So internet's a great thing. You can look and find out, and I go to all the board members, and I got a printout of teachers and lots of things, trying to learn about people that I would be speaking to. Not so that I would sound good, so I can also kind of vet the people that I'm working with to see if it's people that I do want to work with. And there was a video clip with a newscast, and your CSFO said, "I want that superintendent to be our biggest cheerleader." Well, you look at it, I will be the biggest cheerleader. I will brag on our schools. I did a video check with Gagger when I was coming in. Test, and I said, "Go Eagles," and the little student seniors were like, "Go Eagles." So I can see some pride already in our community with that. Also, build trust. Student parent surveys, I want to know. That's why I said, when this is over with, I want to know what you're thinking, what we can do to improve, be a visible presence in all of your schools, go around, visit with kids. Had some children in the high school. I won't embarrass anybody. There was this one teacher working with a very unique group of kids doing a STEM project that was phenomenal. And they're creating stationery and a bunch of neat things, and the pride on their faces when they were showing me those things was incredible. Of course, they were letting me too. You like this Auburn, or you like this Alabama? And y'all have to figure that one out. I'll keep my cards close to the vest, but I'll just say I like the farm, leave it at that. But be involved in civic organizations. The superintendent needs to do that. Be involved in the community, and wear you out. I can tell you this: when Miss Mott came to pick me up today, she told me she'd be there at 4:45. I was so wore out, I had to go get me a sandwich because I didn't eat enough. I didn't drink enough water today just from walking around. I know, man, you're a marathon runner, you know, but it's a different kind of wear out when you do those kind of things. So, at the risk of being verbose, I will be consistent biggest cheerleader and actively involve myself in my life and community.
What role do extracurricular activities have in our school and in our community?
I'm going to stand up so you can see all 5'10" of the point guard from George Wallace of Selma. I wouldn't be standing before you had it not been for a basketball scholarship. I was the first in the family to graduate college, and I had some good people that helped mentor me and get me in that situation. I've had the opportunity to be a part of 10 state championships, 2 in football, 8 in track, 7 in track, 1 in softball, partly as a coach, partly as an athletic director. Boy athletics, football, basketball, sports are important. I heard you had a soccer team, and apparently it is a good thing for our kids here. Maybe that's an amenity that's not offered in some other places. Sports are great, but that's not all there are to extracurricular activities. I have a band director, and you've got a band director. I walk in his classroom, and I have to look around because he's 26 years old and find him because he looks like the kids. But he works at the middle school and the high school that's wearing him out. Mr. Thomley, I got to get some help. What do I need to do? I told him, so Mr. Nash, it's up to me. I will find all the schools around us that are 3A, see how many of them have a middle and a high school band director. I would see how many children they have in their program, and I'd see where you are, and I would see if I'm enrolling my kids. Well, he took it like a sponge. He didn't do that. a band teacher this year because he is running our program. And, we have, our forestry team that finished third in the state at Auburn University. We have a robotics team. I will have to brag on Carol and Mozart for this and a lot of things, but Carol and Mozart, as you know, is the first high school that was STEM certified. Winfield City Schools, where I currently am, is the first school district in the state of Alabama that was district advanced and certified. And the reason we are is because we came to Carol and Mozart and learned what you did so we could do that very same thing. We had students that put a STEM project on the International Space Station. The biggest thing I think in extracurricular activities is at the current school I'm at, we have approximately 400 students. In 9 through 12, we have 320 that are plugged into something. Out of Minds and Others workshop, you find what they're into and you sell it to them and you love them for it. And I would like to see those kind of issues, and you got a tremendous career center that has great opportunities to do a lot of things as well. But extracurricular activities build character, it teaches discipline because you're a student first, then you're an athlete. And it's about like growing up and being an adult and having a family and working a job.
Working with a variety of groups is part of the superintendent's responsibility. Give some examples of how you have encountered opposition and how you have dealt with the resulting situation.
Yeah, forward. At one time in my career, I was principal in Fayette County, and we vetted ourselves and our test scores against the current school district I'm in, Winfield. Our set 10 test scores were in the high range, some of the best in the state, and we wanted to improve and get better and better and better. Then the cotton mill gym closed, our Meritorious made mufflers closed. We lost industry, we lost families, and we went from being up here to barely performing at national average. What changed? Well, we lost a lot of families, we lost a lot of students. Teachers would put our heads together and they would say, "There's Thomley," well, they actually say Coach Thomley, because that's how I came up through the ranks, and say, "Coach Thomley, these students aren't interested in education, they're interested in adult lives." And so we had a problem. And I learned from somebody's mistake, but she ended up doing a good thing. There's a middle school in St. Clair County called Oakville. Their principals have the same kind of problems. They went on a Christmas break, and when she came back, she had changed the schedules, and she had gender-specific classes, all boy, all girl. She caught a lot of rebuttal, a lot of flack, because she didn't involve a lot of stakeholders to do it. But it worked for her, and she was able to keep it. We learned, that's not bad. So we vetted the kids. I sat down with them at lunch and asked them what they thought. Of course, they're middle school kids. No, I won't see my girlfriend. They didn't like it at all. We talked to our parents. We talked to community members. We did our research on the internet at what it said about gender-specific classes. And then we took it forward to our school board. And it had very vulgar pictures and ugly words and things that were prohibiting learning from taking place. And when I put it in the hand of our board president and asked to be on the agenda and on the right, he got looking at it. He said, "Mr. Thomley, this is vulgar. I want to see more. What do you want to do?" And we separated our children by gender. Achievement went up. Now, I'm not suggesting that works everywhere. It worked for us. And one of the takeaways that we got from it, and we weren't expecting it, but in the 7th grade, every girl in the 7th grade was black was on the ABR roll. So I was puzzled by that. I didn't understand it. And I had been basketball coach and do everything. So come on, we'll talk about it. Coach Thomley, when we're in class now, the boys ain't bothering us. We can concentrate on what we're doing, and we're making new friends. Achievement went up. And so sometimes you just have to do the research and figure out what works for you and do just that. But that's one opposition. Second one is, it's hard to believe this, but as a school district, we didn't have a maintenance person in our school district. Air went out, we contracted it out, something got tore up, we contracted it out. Eventually, we had to hire a maintenance man. And so, when we hired this maintenance man, he had been blue collar, worked for himself, can do anything. He's the one that was leading our $2.5 million building project. So he was hired by us, and we kind of messed up in not doing it the right way, and specifically having a protocol to follow if you wanted a maintenance man for something. So Kevin might have been knee deep up in sewer fixing something, and he happened to walk through the elementary school. Hey, could you come in here and fix it? You know, and his people skills were not real good, because when he was in business and somebody said that, he'd tell them what he thought. So Kevin and I had a lot of prayer meetings in my office and worked on soft skills. And over time, we developed a situation. You got something broken, you report it to the principal sends it to the central office, we get it to the maintenance man, and we would get this object repaired. So that was an opportunity to do that. We had a administrator in our system, the second year principal, that there was some question about his contract being renewed. That went into a lot of detail. He did a fabulous job, and I was the one that evaluated him, and we presented that evidence along with the results from the faculty, and his contract was renewed. And for those that are elementary in here, we used to have basal readers in the elementary school, and that is a sacred cow. You do not take basal readers away from teachers. I did. But Dr. Catherine Mitchell said the best way to learn phonics was to read well and some other curriculum, and we did that. Over time, we earned trust in doing that. Those are just some situations, and there's some others I could share as well, but I don't want to go that deep into that. So.
Thank
you. Yes, ma'am.
If there is a need for a tax increase to assist with the school system funding, how would you present the proposal to the community?
We actually have gone through this during my time in the current school district. We did a little research on this too. In Ozark, there's 4-cent sales tax that's by the state of Alabama. There's 1 penny that's on sales tax by Dale County. And then there's 4 cents sales tax that is from Ozark for a total, if you pay for something, you notice it's 9 cents. In Winfield, where I currently reside, that sales tax is 10%. If you ask people to a referendum to increase taxes, you better be very transparent, and you better explain where those dollars are going and what they're for. You have meetings like this with the community. You advertise it in the paper, you promote it on the radio, you get your students to talk about it as well, and you have a clear vision on how you're going to spend that penny. We also had a situation that I think is going to happen soon with Dale County and Ozark, where our village was over a number of years about to have to be reviewed and voted on. And I thought we did very well with 14% village. Kudos to Ozark City Schools for 21% village. And when that comes up, it's the same thing. You're transparent, you explain why, what it's for. And the nice thing about an ad valorem renewal is that one's an easier sell because you're not increasing tax, you're just keeping the existing tax that there is.
Thank you. High performance by students and accountability are priorities for our school system. Eliminating the student achievement gap due in part to COVID-19 is a must. Please share what approaches or strategies you will pursue to eliminate the gap.
I had some conversation with board members and with the superintendent and with teachers about this. With the ESSER funds that we have and we've turned our plan in, these are funds that, if you don't know, that are for recovery of lost instruction. and, because of COVID. So we wanted to be very intentional about how we were going to use those dollars. We have a math problem in our school district, so we saw the need to hire a math coach. We did not have a curriculum coordinator in our school district. I promise you, we are a school district, but we just don't answer on these things. We saw the need for that to improve data and to be intentional about pacing guides, scope and sequence, and aligning our long course of study with standardized testing and a number of different things. We also, need an in-school suspension teacher with specific duties to each building, and we are going to hire an assistant literacy coach. When we make these hires, and we've already made them, first of all, we did it very quickly and intentionally, so that if we hired from within our own district, we had time to go after teachers to replace the ones that we hired. And when we hired the math coach and the curriculum coach, curriculum coordinator, we hired the two best math teachers we have in the school district, and we said, now fix our math problem. I'm taking the two best players away from them. Well, a lot of moving parts of that. Number one, they're great teachers. Now they're instructional leaders. They're going to have to be coached on how to coach teachers to improve achievement. Then another thing is we're tasked with finding the best math teachers we can find. I think I've heard this from around here too. We're not above going and stealing teachers from other school districts if we can get the best, and come be a part of Ozark City Schools. We need, because we got some good things working here. So timing is important on that. Another thing that's a caveat to that is this. I told the math teacher, because I was a principal, now that you're the math coach, we'll mentor you, we want to help you on how to be an instructional leader. By the way, after 2 years, ESSER monies go away. If our math achievement go up really high, we don't get those teachers and kids' test scores up, we won't have that money anymore, and you go back and you take your math teacher. You think she's going to work over there and all to make sure that our test score will get up? Of course she is. So is that curriculum person. And in doing that, they're going to work so hard that that's going to become a local need that we can't do without. And that's what we should be as good stewards of our dollars when we're making decisions like that. And then part of those monies are also used for ventilation in our school, with the majority with recovery of student achievement. To eliminate the gap, data drives instruction, data drives instruction, data drives instruction. You sit down and you look, you're intentional about your data. You vertically and horizontally align your curriculum. You look at your standards and you see what you can do to improve in every area. You provide enriching professional development to your teachers, to the ones that are responsible for your children, and you lay that example of doing that. We did some things, and I shared some of things. If some of you have ever written something like a dissertation, there's two different types of data you can look at. Some of the data is all about numbers, and some of the data is all about the heart and things that you can't measure. We do this with our school district. When a child comes to kindergarten, and I'm a kindergarten teacher, little Sally is in Randy Thomley's room. Sally's good at math. Sally does with her mother and daddy. Sally likes Wonder Woman. First year of open house in the first grade, that first grade teacher already has that in her hand before Sally's parents walk in. The first thing she does, "Hi Sally, I love Wonder Woman." She's gonna set the book and the parents love her. But it keeps following Sally. And then by the fourth grade, that personal placement of her, it's like an IEP, says Sally is struggling, she's doing poorly in math. Teacher doesn't understand how we got from loving Wonder Woman to being being great to hear, but she sees in third grade, Sally's mother and daddy went through a divorce, and things have changed. How valuable is that investing in those children and knowing what's going on in their lives? Especially if you have a transient teacher population. They can read the biographical history of the children, and they're not just bodies sitting in front of you, there's an ownership established there. Those type of approaches will help eliminate the quantitative, qualitative.
Please share what leadership and guidance you provide to ensure the approaches or strategies are properly implemented, evaluated, and adjusted over time of meeting of student needs.
Kind of got a little over talking about answer that too. Ongoing professional development, working horizontal around the needs. Common planning, I was real pleased to hear some of the schools that teachers have common planning. That's huge. They sit down and they talk and they listen. Study your data, be intentional with your data. By the way, the lady that we hired as the CAD curriculum coordinator, she's already got pacing data for every grade. Already has made that for us. We're gonna put it up on our website where our parents can see it. It will align with the course of study. It will align with the scope and sequence of what we teach. And then we'll bid it against the standards and the ACAP test when we get those test results back to see where our achievement gaps are. And when we find those gaps, we'll use that to improve our data. That will be the way to be intentional about changing.
What is your experience with financial management, budget development, fiscal management, etc.? How would you approach the budget process to ensure success during financial challenging times?
I was today at the central office when we were sharing, the superintendent told me they wanted to put concrete down where the buses go. And that they had hired a compaction expert to do soil samples because when you rush dry buses over paving, there's a possibility over time that it's going to take a toll on that. And so they're going to cement, which is very costly, but it's very visionary on their part because it's going to be there forever. You're here, you saw what I saw, some decent pavement in some of the parking lots and some roads. And I understand through capital planning, that's about that. And when we built a $2.5 million multi-purpose facility, we had a compaction expert come in with those soil samples. Every time they brought concrete, they brought rebar, anything, they said, hey, you got a compaction engineer here, you better have your stuff right, you mix your balance and everything. I mentioned about the cost analysis with the cost of heat and cooling the building. We also have a good partnership with our local banks, and we got the best interest rates and some loans that we did. We actually leveraged some loans into some CDs. And I can tell you, we wrote the book on frugal. We have almost 6 months operating expense in the school district. Because when we go somewhere, we don't put a little in the car, we put 3 or 4 in the car and get one travel mileage out of that car. We also are very intentional about a career tech budget using our purpose monies, our OEM monies. And for CSFOs here, I think you agree, spend your federal dollars, spend your state dollars, and spend your local dollars and do the middle. You use that money first and you protect your local dollars. Doing it the right way, of course, when you do it. We had situations in a couple of districts I've been in that, we usually get out of school around 20th at Christmas. That's a lean year where you like to get that check on the 20th because, you're paying bills, especially if you're a regular teacher, what we told them in advance. You will get your check December 31st. That was 11 extra days of interest that we got in the bank because that money was sitting there. Not because we were being mean to our teachers, but we were in a little bit of financial tight in this district. And so we left the money in there when we were supposed to in the school year. Don't believe I'm advocating, but that was a situation for a proration of times were tough that we needed stuff to that. As a superintendent, I'm gonna spend school dollars like I'm right now, I'm tired.
Thank you. In support of our diverse community, how will you ensure diversity in all aspects of the school system, including equitable opportunities for students and hiring of faculty and staff?
I shared with you what I told my wife, and that's personal, about what my intent is with that. Um, I've seen this so many times when, elementary principal. If you walk in, the primary K2 school or the 3-5 school, and you look at the children, and you watch them walk in the halls, and you watch what they're doing, you see what you wish that the world was like. Because they don't care what color they are, they don't care who's tall, who's short, or whatever. They just see things for what they are. Old people do that, children, you can't fool them. And, sometimes race seems to be the elephant in the room, so I kind of tell you a couple of things about that. When I was, principal in Fayette County, every time I had a situation apply or something, it's going to be a suspension. So the parents come in, and I've got the 2 boys, 2 girls, whatever, it may be in the office. And I say, Mr. Hicks, I see that you're white. Mr. Jackson, I see that you're black. I hope race isn't going to be an issue. Let's talk about your children. No, it's out of the room now, we can deal with the problem. Not struggling or questions or problems. We're really intentional, to be honest. Second, I'll give you an example of this kind of person. When I was there, my daughter invited her best friend to spend the night. And, today can bring spend the night. Oh, great. So, one of my best friends, a white girl, at the time didn't know each other. I was not saying the door said, hi, I'm a white girl. She said, hey, I'm Randy Tony. I'm Jean's daddy. Randy's coming over to spend the night. I said, yeah, that's right. And he said, you okay with this? And I looked and said, you mean I'm black? He said, yeah. Oh. And I said, yeah, come on in, let's talk. You just have to be intentional about things and be truthful about it. You can't screw around. But diversity doesn't just exist in race. Diversity exists in socioeconomic status, it exists in entitlement, it exists in a number of things. But you have to be intentional, you have to be true, and you have to be an advocate for the children. As I mentioned earlier, I'll say this, and you know, I mean it with my heart. I'm not a yes man. So if you're looking for that, I probably need to come now. I'm not a micromanager. I am what I shared a little bit, and I want that recording if I really want, because I got to check the boxes. But that would be opportunity.
Describe your experiences with the implementation of new technology to include the impact it had on teachers, students, and parents, specifically addressing the COVID-19 pandemic technology implementation, knowing what you know now, if any, would you do different?
It's been a tough year. This has been for so many, the toughest year. The state got one thing extremely right. They hired mental health service coordinators. I can't tell you how many children in school have things that they don't have the ability to articulate their feelings because they're not old enough. That's followed up. We didn't go home with them in March, and we didn't know what was going on with them. I think I was to understand that you didn't get start school immediately. We, when we got ready to start school, we, of course, followed the guidelines of the Alabama State Department of Education, the Alabama Department of Public Health, recommendation from the Center for Disease Control, and we also met the guidelines of the Alabama High School Athletic Association. We surveyed our parents, how many of you are going to be remote, how many of you are going to be face-to-face, how many are looking for some type of blended instruction. I mentioned that we're going to a student certified school. We were blessed in that regard. We already had a LMS learning management system in place called HiQ. Kids were familiar with it, my parents were familiar with it. We had a pretty good broadband internet. We ended up about 15% of our children became virtual learners. The most taxing for anybody on that was the teachers, and they just, hats off to them. K through 2 had to learn about using iPads. They had to learn about high-code schoology learning management systems. It was very difficult for career tech teachers. I had auto mechanics teachers had YouTube videos showing how to change oil. To me, career tech's the best thing in the world. You lift the hood, you find the problem, you fix it. Used to be a problem. And I think that's the best way with that. But, we, had teachers that would be teaching in the classroom. They have remote learners. They would be wanting to ask questions, and the teacher, we told them in advance. Now, teachers don't teach a class, you send your questions to them, she can get back with you, but she might not get back in the timetable that you want her to get back. We had, families in our community had no internet, and they wanted to be remote learners. We took our buses, we put one at Taco Bell, we put one at Marathon Roll, we put one in out. And hotspots off of our buses for 2 weeks. Those families used them because we did have to, in this whole year, we had to close our elementary school for 2 weeks, but it was called our staff by contact tracing or COVID. Otherwise, for our children, we've been truly blessed in that regard. What we learned, and this will shock you probably, but face-to-face learning is the best type of instruction. You already know that. We need to tell you. By the end of the third grade period, we required all of our students to come back to school face-to-face. However, with this caveat, there were some that did have a specific medical reason. We had a few children that were caregivers for a senior adult. That was an exception that we made based on circumstance. We were very intentional about disinfecting our buildings. We were very intentional about masks on children when they rode buses. Drivers loved it. I know she's here somewhere to start with. A bus might have 12 kids on it. But as we started gaining trust, they started getting big more and more. One of my bus drivers was the husband of the first lady that died of COVID in Marion County. So he was very intentional about disinfecting his bus and about wearing masks. Since that time, we are now where children have an option to wear a mask to school. We have prom. I told you about the third round of the baseball playoffs. We're playing sports. And it's very nice to be back to a sense of normalcy. And it's probably has nothing to do with the interview I'm going to say anyway. You know, it says in the Old Testament that you plant for 6 years, and then there's a year that you kind of let the land rest. And after it rests for a year, you get back to that next year, and you plant and get a new harvest. I think the world just got a little tired and needed to rest. And I know I got a lot more out of this than just being a pandemic. I got closer to a lot of things, and I learned a lot about people, I learned a lot about myself. So that's also kind of how it works for me. Sometimes you can take lemons and you can make lemonade if you look at it the right way. I know that's a bit the most too.
Thank you. This ends the prepared question portion of the interview. The board has prepared an additional question. At the conclusion of your first year as superintendent, how would you gauge your success and the areas of most needed improvement?
I won't say the film. I want to make sure that I did what I said I was going to do. Check the boxes and be intentional about that. Also, I think that it's important. This happened for me with my administration this year. Now that we're 2 weeks, we graduate May 28th and getting out of school, I'm going to sit down with all 3 faculties Monday, and I'm going to say, I have a 10-question survey, and I need you teachers to answer this. I've already shown it to the principals. Number 1, my principal is a visible presence in my building. Number 2, my principal is intentional about learning. I won't give you all 10 of them. One of them was, I have psychological safety that if my principal and I disagree about something, that we can come to a conclusion without it being demeaning or us disagreeing and being treated with disrespect. I'm going to hold everybody in the school district accountable. I'm going to be the biggest cheerleader, but I'm going to be intentional, not in a micromanaging way, but in a way of let's be the best school district we can be. I expect them to hold me with that same accountability. I expect you to hold me with that same accountability, and I would question you if you didn't. And, the only way that you can truly improve as a leader is to take that results of that survey. And I told the administration this, I said, some of these surveys, you're gonna get them back. You got one or two teachers that you might have to be a little tough on, and you might get some names on there, and you can say, that's really not relevant. Then you might say something on there and say, you know, I sure wish you would do this, and that, you know, I didn't realize that. Thank you for telling me that. That's going to improve me professionally. That's the only way to grow is receive criticism, constructive criticism, and take it and do self-reflection. So in response to that question, we need to hold each other accountable so that we can be the best school district that we can be.
This concludes the interview. Are there any additional comments that you would like to make to the board?
I'll just reiterate what I said. Thank you so much for your hospitality. And truthfully, enjoyed everyone that I met. My hats off to each of you. And you have some tough choices to make. Whether it's me or not, I pray that you make the best choice for your school district and do what's best for the boys and girls of those OCS schools.
Thank you, Mr. Thomley. The board would like to invite everyone to reception at the top of the atrium. Thank you all for joining us.